Okay, so this is going to be the last segment of this argument. And my argument is basically proposed to those who are inclined to take a look at what I'm saying and perceive it through the eyes of your own and take it and run with it. And run with it whatever way you please. And just note that my references were probably alone my own. And not my references, but my my thoughts were alone in those arguments. And in those arguments, my thoughts alone were, like, again, used by other people before me, but the way you perceive them is going to be different. Of course, we get at the normal subjective versus objective claims, and the subjective versus objective claims are little to be known. And little to be known is also a reference to what I'm actually talking about. And what I'm actually talking about, you would have to have a full-scale conversation with me to know. And there's so much phenomenon in my past that hasn't been referenced, and that phenomenon in my past that hasn't been referenced, there is able to create arguments, and those arguments are not my own, and those arguments are to the people who are involved in those arguments. So at the end of the day, when we look at those arguments, I'm not going to do that at all to that argument. And when I say that, I mean it. And to point out the fact that this argument is true, I'm going to have to allow for myself to build reputation. And that reputation has been felt throughout my history with other individuals, not my history alone. And or not my history through one dialogue. One dialogue is not going to shift the paradigm of the world. But a man can shift the paradigm of the world. And as a man shifts that paradigm of the world, we find that a God can also shift the parallel of that world. But how does a God shift that parallel of the world? I mean, through a man's eyes. And through a man's eyes, we find that this is part two of the same argument that I proposed before. And if this argument is not felt, then I must add this. I'm going to try to freestyle a little bit. I'm here on the Daily News with the Mackie D's, with the Chris Redfields and the Yodis, and the Chris Redfields and the Yodis, and the Chris Redfield and the Yodis, and the Jesus Christ and the Boba Fett's, and the Bioshocks and the King Kongs, and the Pink Thongs, and the monsters, and the monsters and the crawlers, and the crawlers and the man, the man of steel. And as we still could claim those arguments, we could also still claim that this is made of that which I've spoken of before. And how is it made of that which I've spoken of before, if not through gold, if not through copper, but through a different medium? So that different medium is actually relified. As it is relified, we then look at the nature of what that does to a monster, or what that does to a demon, and or a werewolf, or a vampire. But when we look at a vampire, we're using a radically different method. That radically different method is also given to someone who I spoke about previously, and that method of that person who I spoke about previously was able to manifest truth throughout the world. And the truth he manifested throughout the world is beyond all comprehension. All praise due to him. All praise due to him. All praise due to him. And when I say that, I mean that there were men in this world who actually fractured the nature of existence. And they fractured the nature of existence through different sources and different mediums. And that stake that I'm using is a big stake that I'm taking now. And that big stake that I'm taking now is to make my break. And to make my break is not to mean anything but what I've said in the darkness. And what I've said in the darkness was also referred to what I said through Yoda's terms. Yoda's terms is also reality. And reality is that we will take it further and we will take it to the stars. And as we take it to the stars, I am quoting these bars from someone who lands on Par. And as he lands on Par, we understand that this star is gonna understand me for who I am before he understands who I am. And as he understands who I am, I'm gonna understand who he is through his lyrics. So we're kind of equal in that respect. So I'm not trying to use this as a form against him. I'm just using this as a form to create a peer. And to create a peer, I alone hold to another lyrics. And you will not control this lyric. This lyric cannot be controlled. And neither will the media be controlled. Because when we look at it, we have a lot of different sources from which we came. And those sources are, the media is literally each human individual that we love and care for. Every human deserves love. Every human deserves love. Every human deserves love. Every human deserves love. And that is what I'm actually talking about. That holds no reign over or under the same meanings. So those same meanings are still existent. And if you doubt me, well then ask an expert. I mean, look at Bruce Lee, for example. Bruce Lee was used in Lupe's terms, and Bruce Lee had a lot to say. And as Bruce Lee said a lot, he also denounced power. And as denouncing power, I find conflict within that. I find remorse within that. But there is so much power that he is giving at the same time. So I'm like, how are you denouncing this power, yet you're giving the same amount of power? And Bruce Lee was also sewing the seams. And as he sewed the seams, he noticed something new. And as he noticed this new thing, he had spoken about it. And he spoke about it in different forms. And I am not talking the form of that. I'm not talking the form of that. I'm talking the form of us all. Of us as human beings. And as souls. We each have a soul within us. And my soul is in love. But with, like I said before, prerequisited context. And those prerequisited contexts were given by whom? By a different source. And that source was not me. That source was him. And that's who I'm talking to now. So as I speak to him, I want him to know that there is a great many gravel to be picked up. There is a great many glass to be picked up. And we will pick it up. And we will start to pick it up through our own words, which we're already doing, which I love, which I'm in love with. And so to chamber these thoughts together, like Neymar in the deep oceans of the sea, or Aquaman in the deep oceans of the sea, we see that we find so many gems on earth that we have yet to discover, so many pearls that we have yet to discover, and so many oysters that we have yet to discover. And these oysters we have yet to discover are species that actually exist. And I might actually make another video based on the species that actually exist, because this is important to me. So, as this is important to me, let this be important to you. And the space, the heavens, the stars, and that I had given, and I know who I'm talking to now, so him and the other one are like polars to me, and have birthed me in a lot of ways, but are not me at all. I am my own creation, I am my own manifestation, and I am my own being.